and welcome to So You Think You're Awake, the show about life transformation through dream interpretation. I'm Michael Sheridan. On the show, through analysing your dreams, I reveal your potential and the obstacles in life you need to overcome. I'm very specific. I tell you your superpowers, what makes you magnificent, and the bumps in life that are holding you back. These bumps are not in the way, they are the way. I was logging onto Facebook this morning, and what popped up in my feed was a picture of me in the KKNW studios from 6 years ago. I thought it was just 5. And you know what I noticed most about that picture? There was a lot less grey hair. So that means I'm analysing dreams to help you and going grey in the process. What else could you want? Do you want blood? I can check the rule book with KKNW, see if I can give you blood, and maybe I'll raffle off a pint of that on next week's show. But do you know what you can do for me in return? You can go to my website, dream-analysis.com, and get on my list by downloading my free dictionary. A dictionary that is so worth it. Also, if you download that dictionary, you will find out this. I am doing an event on February 17th at 12 p.m. Pacific time with Mia Astrom. And it's a live event entitled Connect to Your Gifts and Life Purpose. So you'll get details about that if you're on my list. Also at my website, dream-analysis.com, you can submit your dream to the show and I could use it next week. That would be great too. All of those things I would appreciate. And we'll say nothing about the grey hair. So what else? I will also put a link to that event, webinar event with Mia Astrom. If you're watching this show on YouTube, it'll be in the comment section. If you're watching it on my website, it'll be under the show, and various other places where I post it. So let's do some dreams. This first dream comes from Jeff, and it's called The Gift. He says, it's a really short one. Jeff is 46. He says, I climbed up a ladder to a water tower that had a comfortable room inside it. There was a man that gave me a box. I opened it and took out some sort of device. I was climbing down the ladder with the device when the man popped his head out and dropped the box down, hitting me right in the face. And that's the whole dream. He said, the next morning when I looked in the mirror, I had a mark in between my eyes. It's kind of a funny dream, really, especially when you went and checked for the mark. I think that's what's funny about it. So climbing up a ladder is good. That's about activating your spiritual side. It's a water tower that connects it with spirituality too, because water is almost always connected with spirituality. And somebody inside this room that's there, this comfortable room, which is the womb, really, and even a box in a dream symbolizes the womb. You're basically told something about what you brought to the earth plane. This guy gives it to you. When somebody gives you a gift in a dream, so I'm going to include this in that category, they are a guide. So this guide is giving you something that you brought with you from the spirit world to the physical via the womb. And so it's just interesting the way it shows up in your dream. And you take it. I'm really glad that you do. A lot of people in these dreams don't. So you take the device. You don't say what it is. I'm going to imagine it's something to do with communication, because when you said you have the mark between your eyes, I'm going to go with intuition. Excuse me, clairvoyance, because it's the third eye, like the in between the eyes, a little bit above and in between the eyes. And so it's saying that this getting activated on you in your dream, and that's pretty good. What else do we want to say about that? Nothing. Just it'll be interesting to see going forward how that pans out for you. Typically, the third eye, like I said, is connected with clairvoyance, so it's about getting images or movies about things. So you ask your guides questions, and they're going to give you either still images or images that change, like something in the picture changes, or a movie that tells you something. But that's how your connection works. But I like that he dropped it down the ladder. So definitely a guide, because he's given it to you from a higher location. This next dream is called Spider Bites, and it's from Vicki-Jean. And she says, she's 58. She says, My first foster home was Mormon. I grew up in the Mormon church and left in 2017. It took 2 years of planning and a move out of Rexburg. Esther is my daughter. We left the church at the same time. And I can say those things because she says it in the dream, even though we don't, she didn't really go with a pseudonym, so that's fine. But here's the dream. I dreamed I was back in Rexburg-ish. Everyone in the dream was Mormon. Terry was helping me. Now, I don't know anything about Terry. I did ask Vicky some questions, but I didn't get any answers yet. It was just Esther and me trying to find a place to live. There was an old lady. I was trying to help her, but I can't remember what I was trying to help her with. Spiders were at her place, and for some reason, could not leave her property without spiders on the fence I was trying to climb because it had no door. It was overrun with vines. I somehow climbed over the fence without getting bitten. So this is going to be about birth because you're in a place and you're leaving the place. And you're living with your daughter, so we have the mother-daughter relationship, but it's going to be about your mom and daughter. And I wrote and I asked, when did you enter foster care? I didn't get the answers yet. I know I will during the week. That's fine. But that would be significant. So when did you move into this foster family? What age were you? Were you 2? Because the age 2 comes up in the dreams, in the rest of the dream. But the old lady anyway represents mom. But sometimes they can also represent your foster mom. It really depends on the relationship. The person can represent both. But having the no door and all that and it being difficult to leave is like, that's a difficult birth, but it's also difficult to leave the Mormon church. In fact, I know it's very difficult to leave the Mormon church. And many churches, I suppose, but Mormon church and the Jehovah's Witnesses too. So it's going to be elements of that too. So there's going to be leaving the church and also leaving your birth mom, and the difficulty in both, and having to climb over a fence. A fence is a symbol for the heart, a really strong one. But spiders, and you call it spider bites, spiders are about irrational fears. So that's really good. The fears aren't, but the fact that it's an irrational fear means that the thing you're afraid of isn't necessarily going to happen. It's probably a bad way to put it. It isn't going to happen. You have a fear that you shouldn't have is probably the best way to put it. And so the dream is saying you can let go of the fear because what you're afraid of isn't going to happen. As opposed to, I have a fear of something, like I'm going in for an operation and I'm afraid of this operation. That's a realistic fear. This one says the thing you're afraid of isn't there, so stop worrying about it. So it's good that way. That's the way I mean it. Anyway, you say you then went to a church or school, were in the gymnasium. Esther was unhappy there and she left. So it's going to be about your unhappiness too. And maybe your daughter was unhappy in the church as well. I missed her and was sad. And of course, she left with you, so that didn't happen. So it's going to be about sadness from the past. Brother Piper was an authority figure and teacher. We all had learned to fill out this form like we were training to be police. It was similar to an application for the Boy Scouts. He praised my ability to fill out the application. So you are a spiritual teacher. We know that because we have Brother Piper there and you say he's an authority. So an authority is also a spiritual teacher in a dream. And training to be the police, that's really a big thing that jumps out from any dream. And police and dreams represent guides, and so you're filling out a form to say that you're training to be police, which means that you're a trainee guide, which is really good. Same as a guide, you're a guide, but in a trainee capacity, which is fantastic to know your level. And what else we've got? You say Boy Scouts. Boy Scouts are also about leadership. So in case you're worried, is it just about Brother Piper? What if, I mentioned him because I know him? And some people often think this. No, you've got him being a spiritual leader there, but you also have two other things. You have the police and then the Boy Scouts. And just for curiosity, I thought I'd mention this on the show, but here's the Scout oath. On my honor, I will do my best to do my duty to God and my country and to obey the Scout law. Isn't it funny? It's circular. Next part. To help other people at all times, which is what a leader does, to keep myself physically strong, mentally awake, and morally straight. Could you imagine where the country would be if everybody was morally straight? Particularly political leaders. If they were morally straight, we would be living in a different country, a country with Medicare for all, for instance, or even better, something even better. But anyway, the Scouts signifies that leadership because of their oath and because of their law. And here's their law. A Scout is trustworthy, loyal, helpful, friendly, courteous, kind, obedient, cheerful, thrifty. Funny how the thrifty falls in there. Brave, clean, and reverent. Reverent stands out in that list, doesn't it? It's really interesting to see reverent in there. And reverent is about feeling or showing deep and solemn respect. And you're a trainee guide. And here's what's really interesting. If you ever channel angels or ever communicate with them and say, how do I raise my vibration? Being reverent to them is one of the very, very vital components to raising your vibration. And this is something that I used to have difficulty with because I thought it was like, oh, you want us to bow down before you and praise you and all that sort of stuff. It seems a bit egotistical to me, but it's not about that at all. It's a bit kind of like, if I give an analogy, if you don't like rich people, or if you think of it this way, if you drive past somebody, a Ferrari at the side of the road with a flat tire, somebody changing a tire, are you like, ha ha ha, because the person's rich? And at the same time saying to yourself, I want to be super rich. Well, you can't have any sort of negative view of rich people if you also want to be rich, because then you're driving a wedge between what you desire and your actions to get that. And so being reverent to angels and higher powers is super important if you want to raise your vibration. Having respect for their abilities and what it took for them to get to where they are, how they can help, how their heart is open, and so on and so on. Super, super important thing. So it's lovely to see it on the Scout thing. Anyway, I digress, but I enjoyed the digression. So thank you for talking about the Boy Scouts. Continuing with your dream, you say, I found an awful cheap motel place to live. Liked it okay, better than being homeless. And of course, you've left the Mormons. So 3 years ago, if it's 2017, let me know how that's affecting you now. But there were huge spiders. So we still have these fears. And this is probably where it all comes from, because now you have to do things on your own. I didn't realize that there were 2 spiders in a bathtub. When I saw them, I tried to move them. They grabbed hold of my hand and basically pumped venom into my left hand underneath the pinky. So, does the pinky on the left hand mean anything? Could it be significant? Well, yes, it does. It signifies leadership. It is where one branch of the heart meridian ends in the body. And so we've already seen spiritual leadership in your dream because of what we've had before, and the heart because of the fence. So here we have it with just this one pinky finger. Spiritual leadership requires an open and compassionate heart. And another interesting point about the pinky is signet rings are worn on the pinky finger of the left hand. And they were part of the regalia of monarchs. And sometimes even the Pope wears a signet ring. So you're definitely a spiritual leader. You have to accept that. The last little part of the dream, I thought about trying to drive to hospital, but the spider bite was turning my hand blue. I called for help. Brother Piper came and he wanted me to fill out a form. Good help, Brother Piper. He saw my hand and became alarmed, directed other people to help me. He couldn't remember the phone number to call for help. So this is something you've got to do. This is the obstacle. Get in touch with your guides, the police, the authorities. That's who they are. In a dream anyway. I asked Google to call the doctor. Google gave all the wrong answers. There were 3 people there, the old lady, Brother Piper, and a deputy person, and none of them could take me to the hospital. Ended the dream still trying to call for help. So the old lady is mom, and I'm going to say birth mom, but if you answer the questions in the email, or we have a conversation, and anybody whose dream I ever do on the show is entitled to a call with me where I'll go over more details on the dream in person. So you can do that too. I will send you the details. But basically you need to take your hand to the hospital. So you want somebody to take your hand, But really, your job is to take other people's hands. You're the spiritual leader. And the hospitals and dreams are about it's about fixing your mental state, how your mental state can affect your health. Not crazy kind of state, but just attitude. And so, like I said, you're meant to take other people's hands and help them. You're a trainee guide. That's what you're here to do. And that's fantastic. And what I'm going to do for you is I'm going to send you the contact details to my friend Bruce Klein. And Bruce has a podcast called Leaving Your Religion or something like that. I should have looked it up. I've even been on it, but I think that's what it's called. And he helps people who have been in a religion for a long time, or were raised in a religion and have left, and it causes them stress and difficulty. And I asked him before the show, does the Mormon Church shun members who leave? And he said, no, not the way the Jehovah's Witnesses do, but it definitely strains relations, and many former friends don't call anymore. So regardless of that, there's still going to be a major impact to you from taking the steps to leave the church. And so I'm going to send you his details. Why? Because I had channeled for him before. He's meant to set up support groups for people who have left churches. It would be so easy for him to do. He is completely aware of how people are brought into churches, how people are sent on missions to attract new members and so on. And so the perfect person to help you understand how the church keeps a hold on you and help you to let go of it, because understanding the programming, which is what he has, understanding that will help you overcome the obstacles. So I'm going to send you to him to ask him for help, even pointers, and partly it's also to push him into setting up this support network, which he may already have done, but I don't think so. But it's something he's definitely meant to do. And I know he's definitely in the throes of doing that, because, like I said, he has that podcast. And I think that's it. Thank you for sending your dream. Quite an interesting one, and good luck with making all the decisions on your own, and stepping into that trainee guide role. There's no difference between a trainee guide really and a guide in how they help. It's just you're going to get all the help from your guides, but you're a spiritual leader and have to step into that. So here's another dream about leadership, and we can tell from the title. It's called Cat is Direct Descendant of Andrew Johnson's Cat. Andrew Johnson became president due to the assassination of Abraham Lincoln, and he became the first president to face impeachment due to vetoing a bill that protected freed slaves. But that's a little about him. But what about the cat? He didn't have one. He remains one of the few presidents to have 0 pets in the White House. But during his impeachment trial, he befriended a family of white mice, which he fed and monitored while staying out of the limelight. And interestingly, his daughter brought cats into the White House to try get rid of mice and rats. And there he was feeding them just a few floors away, which was funny. But here's the dream. My good friend Melissa and I had a cat. We realized it was a direct descendant of a cat that lived in the White House when Andrew Johnson was president. And we decided to take it to the White House to tell them about it and see if the cat could take a tour with us. So I would read this. Yeah, the cat's definitely about digestive system, but I would also read it about like, oh, there's a cat in the White House. So it's about like the president being the cat. So it's about spiritual leadership because we have a president showing up in the dream. I asked about Melissa, but I didn't get an answer. But I found this dream funny. Normally, if I don't get answers, I don't do the dream, but on the radio, that is. But I just love the whole theme of this dream, so I had to do it. I asked about Melissa, like I said, but I didn't get the answer. So Melissa asked if I knew how to get there, and I said yes. We were on the street and walked through a park. We came to a stream, but couldn't find a way across it at first, but then found a way across. We had to backtrack a little bit to find the way across. We got up a hill and was asking for the last part of the directions at a government building. I said, Is it better to go this way or that way? I knew where the White House was, but I wanted to know the best way to get there. They said there's a messenger going over there right now if you want to ride. At first I said no, then changed my mind, and we all took the ride. She dropped us at the box office to get tickets. So that's not the end of the dream. But interesting, so it's like I'm going to make my own way there, and it's going to be a hard way. I'm not going to do it the easy way. Even when I'm offered a ride, my initial reaction is to say no. And so you're trying to do it your own way, going uphill. It's like that says it's a bit of a struggle, and then you have to backtrack a bit and so on. But anyway, that's where you're going. You're heading towards arriving at the place of realizing that you are a spiritual leader. Just like the last dreamer, which is why I put these two together. But what did you think about having to pay to get in? You don't make a point of it here in the dream, so I'm assuming you thought it was worth it. And I point this out because on the very last line of the dream, you say something connected. But the dream continues. We told them about the cat, and they called in some other guy who came over to talk to us. We told him about the cat, and he was questioning, how do we really know that the cat is a descendant? So this is all about, how do I know that I really am a leader? It's not really about the cat at all. It's like, I'm not that cat, man. He brought out a portrait of the Andrew Johnson cat, and portraits are about goals and ideals. And of course, there's no portrait of this cat in existence because the cat didn't exist. Anyway, brings out this portrait, which shared one similar characteristic of our cat. The cats of old looked quite different to the modern day cat, but there were similarities in the nose and forehead region. He left to refer us to someone else that we had to talk to. We were getting VIP treatment. We got the cat authenticated, and then we were out in the garden area, and it was all set up for an event with booths. Melissa commented on how it was just set up to make money. So there you go. That's why I mentioned the thing earlier about you get dropped off at the box office and you don't say that you paid. So I'm wondering if you paid and would you have been happy to pay? And so it's not about you charging people for spiritual leadership. It's about you investing and your own time and energy and your money into developing that skill, making it shine within you, and then trusting it, not viewing it as something that's just a racket, like you say at the end of the dream. So I did ask, do you have digestive system problems? Because absolutely I can say from this dream that you do. And I asked, what's your view of spiritual leaders? Because if you think they're great, that's great. But because of the way you talk about this dream and don't take the offer to get there straight away, I'm wondering, and then what's your view of political leaders? Because spiritual leaders are very different from political leaders. If Nelson Mandela was the leader of your country, then you had a leader who had an open and compassionate heart. But if not, there's very few other leaders are that way. So that's why I asked about it. Anyway, you've got to realize that spiritual leadership is different and go that way. And then the question about impeachment, what's your view on the impeachment of Trump and so on and so on and so on. That all would have played into the analysis I gave. So I have another dream here. This dream is from Nicola. Nicola's age 30. She said, I don't know where I was, but I was traveling and we were heading in the direction of home. I was with 3 other people in an RV/camper van, 2 men and 1 woman. You said, upon waking, I recognized the men as actors. I think the main driver was Jason Bateman. So that makes it about channeling. You're a channel. And 2 is always shows up in dreams about channels, but actors are about channeling. The woman was annoying us all a little bit, but we were putting up with her as she had the same goal as us, to get home. So that's going to be about issues with mom, most likely, or issues with a woman anyway. It nearly always goes back to mom. The camper had bunk beds overhead, but I chose to sleep in the lower level. So there's another negative. You need to stop putting yourself down or holding yourself back. You're a channel. Get into the top bunk would be saying that you're going to get into your spiritual nature, but you didn't. You say, I don't really remember much of the journey until I started to worry about that Jason Bateman man was probably getting tired as he was doing most of the driving and not getting any sleep. It had been agreed that I would opt out of the driving because I don't really like it. True in real life too. So the woman took over. So that doesn't cut it in dreams. You don't get a bypass card. You have to do the driving. So anybody driving in your dream is saying somebody else is controlling the direction of your life. And so this woman now gets into controlling the direction of your life. So you got to step in, not let other people control that direction. Work on the issues around mom is basically what that is. However, she took us around a roundabout too fast and we toppled over because she wasn't respecting that she was driving such a tall vehicle. A tall vehicle is good because that's like the bunk beds. That's about your channeling ability. That's the spiritual aspect. So we all had to get out and put it back upright to continue on. And you do. Jason Bateman got back into the driver's seat, but I was aware he was very tired still. I tried to warn him about a big crater in the road, which is about your elimination system. And you're only 30, so you should be aware of this. That's not normal for somebody who's 30. But he was too slow. Of course, it's your system is slow. And drove straight into it. We now all had to pull the vehicle out of the crater several feet below where the road should be. We were all a bit tired and agitated by the time we got it out, so we pulled up at the next stop. Although we had planned to get home without stopping, there was a place for us to stay the night, and I remember seeing a few shops nearby, which made me pleased to know we could get some supplies. So that's good. Your needs are going to be met. You need to take that break, work on the issues with mom, work to heal your elimination system because it's definitely shown up in the dream as a thing. And the heart's in there too because of the roundabout and the woman toppling it at the roundabout. So issues with mom are around the heart. And just real quick, in case you're wondering, how can I be so confident about saying the elimination system? Another dream from the same dreamer. I was at my parents' current house where I grew up, and I answered the front door to find my granddad stood there. I'm skipping a lot. He had dementia anyway. I directed him to the kitchen as I remember thinking he'll be a bit confused about where to go after so long. I don't really remember more of what happened from there. I think I may have read to him from the downstairs toilet. Ta-da! So definitely elimination system stuff there. So the dementia anyway is the elimination system is confused, not functioning as it should, etc., etc. You need to work on that by working on the issues around mom and getting into the role of being a channel because you are a channel. All right, that's my show for this week. I will see you next week. Take care.